I thought I saw it pop up. I need to get me a multi-display thing.
Yeah,
Yep, we're live. I'm seeing it for the March meeting, and I'm seeing some folks check in. Hey, there's Rachel. Rachel, are you in 2 places at once?
Yes.
Your cyber presence, your cyber kung fu is strong. Okay, so we'll be starting here in just a moment. Welcome everybody on Facebook. Thanks. I see people checking in. Thanks for checking in with us. We will be starting in about a minute. And the meeting is being recorded, I think. Yes. You would think I'd get pretty good at this after, I don't know what, 10 months of trying it, but we'll see how it goes tonight.
You're kidding me. You only get good at this crap.
I try. Okay, I'm showing that it's 7 o'clock. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the March meeting for the Amateur Radio Club of Columbia County. This is meeting number 92. Just a reminder, we are broadcasting out on Facebook Live on the ARCCC Facebook page, and the meeting is being recorded. It will link to the recording, will be on YouTube, and it'll be linked on our website. So you'll be able to get to the meeting through Facebook or through YouTube after that's over. Thanks everybody for joining us. Would anyone like to offer an invocation for us this evening? I usually go to Devon, but I don't see him here. Okay, no takers. I'll go ahead and do it. Lord, thank you for giving us this opportunity to meet with our fellow hobbyists this evening to discuss our hobby. Thank you for taking care of us, and thank you for all the gifts that we receive, and may we give back to your glory. In your name, amen. Okay. All right, agenda for tonight. It'll be pretty standard stuff going through here. Great news is I want to thank Eric for joining us this evening. We will have a presentation this evening, so that's not something we have every month, and we really do want to try to get back into doing more of that. So Eric, thanks for joining us and giving us a presentation this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We're going to do the welcome and introduction. So the way we typically do this is I'll go down through a roll call of the people as I see them checked in here. Just ask you for name and call sign. Any greeting you want to render, that's fine. Then I'll go over to Bill and he'll make an announcement of the folks who have checked in. So folks on Facebook, get ready. If you're watching, please check in with a name and a call sign to let us know you're there. If you have any questions during the meeting about anything or a point that you want to raise, please type it in there in the comments, and Bill will pause strategically throughout the thing to address any questions that you have. So okay, I'll start off. I'm Dan, N1ADM. All right, so what always happens here is as people speak up, the order of the list changes. So I'm going to try to keep up with who's already spoken up and not go twice or miss anybody. But if that happens, I apologize ahead of it. So first on my list is Bob Garn.
Good evening. It's Bob, KG4EDH.
Thank you, Bob. Next, I have Steve Claiborne.
This is Steve, KJ4FSX.
Good evening, Steve. Next, I have Bill.
Good evening. This is Bill, Whiskey Kilo 4 Foxtrot.
Okay, and just like I expected, they all changed order. So, Eric, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric, KC9ASC.
Siri. Next, I have Gene.
Gene, November uniform to Papa.
Thanks, Gene. All right, they changed order again. Mark. I saw you pop up, Mark, but I didn't hear you. We might have a technical difficulty, but Mark AA1WO is with us. Mark, we'll let you troubleshoot that. Robert McManus.
Hey, this Robert, Kilo November 4, Kilo Quebec Juliet.
Okay, I used your full name because we have two Roberts tonight. So, Rachel.
Hey, this is Rachel, KO4 HLC.
Okay. Oh boy, let's see. Rick.
Two for the roll call. This is Rick, November Oscar 3 Kilo.
And Judy, K1UTE.
Hello, Rick and Judy. Thank you. Let's see.
Hey, this is Mark. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Mark. Go ahead.
Yay, just gotta hit the right buttons. This is Mark, AA1W. Thanks. Good
All
evening.
right. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Other Robert, KG4UKE. Sorry, I stole your thunder on your call sign.
This is Robert, KG4UK.
Thanks, Robert. Let's see. Rusty. Is that where you are, Rusty?
I'm in the other room now.
Oh, okay. What's a beach with a sunset? That's why I asked.
That's mine. Sorry.
Okay. Well, you go ahead now, Shannon.
Shannon, KK4 MED. I cannot get my camera working, so that's why it's beach.
Okay. Well, all right. We can all wish we were there, right? Susie and or Chuck.
This is Susan, Whiskey Alpha Zero Bravo, and Chuck, KN4 EPG.
Okay, thanks for both for joining us. And last but absolutely not least, Walter.
Good evening, everyone. Walter, W4EFS.
All right, I think I got everybody, but if there's anybody I missed on the Zoom meeting, please speak now. Awesome. Bill, I'll turn it over to you to intro our Facebook guests.
Okay. I've got Greg, November 8, Papa Zulu. Let's see. There's Marion, Kilo Oscar 4, November Sierra Yankee. Devon says he can't make it. Then there's Chuck, Kilo Juliet 4, India Kilo Zulu. Jamie, Kilo Oscar 4, Oscar Quebec Oscar. That's a lot of round letters. And I believe that is it. That's all that I see. If I run across somebody I missed, I'll yell out before the end of the meeting.
Okay. Well, I will. Like I said, we'll pause strategically throughout to see if we have any comments or anything. You're all special guests this evening. Anyone visiting with us for the first time, we appreciate you joining us for the meeting. The meetings are open to anyone who would like to attend. We typically send the Zoom invite out to the membership distro, but if anybody contacts me wanting to get in on the Zoom meeting, but obviously the Facebook Live is open to anyone who wants to participate. Okay, we have a bunch of membership applications. We had what might be, I don't know if it's a record turnout, but it's got to be close at the VE test session on March 13th. I went and checked again today, and it looked like the call signs still had not been assigned, which is unfortunate. But I have membership applications for all these folks from the VE test session as well as for Marion, who sent us in an application in his dues. So I'll just read through the names really quickly here. Due to the number, I won't read out all the interest, but everybody did check interest, and we give extra points for people who check net control, but might give them $1 off if they choose net control. Just kidding. Anyway, you see it on here, but I'll read the names: Corbin Cooney, Russ Dedrickson, Russell Fenton, Jose George, Jesse Gill, Randolph Knipe, hope I pronounced that right, Jameson Lewis, Marcus Roseman, Mark Sisson, Camilla and David Reed, Mark Thompson, Glenn Todd, Aparna, I'm sure I'm messing this up, Vijayan maybe, and Mark Wilson. These were all from the VE test session. And again, I mentioned that Marion sent in his application and paid the annual dues. So these folks are just coming on at the beginning of our dues period, which is incredibly convenient for our accounting. Are there anyone want to make a motion regarding these membership applications?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Accept all?
Yes.
Okay, so that was Shannon.
I'll second that.
That was Walter?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the table with the second to accept all of these applicants for membership in the Amateur Radio Club of Columbia County. Is there any discussion? We'll put it up for vote. Are there any opposed to accepting all of these new members into the Amateur Radio Club of Columbia County? Hearing no opposition, I would like to welcome all these folks. If you're online with us this evening, welcome. If not, I think we've already got them. I kind of preloaded the membership roster, so you're in there. So welcome, and we thank you for your interest in joining the club. Is anyone aware of any additional application or membership applications? And hopefully the slides are coming across. I didn't even think to ask. Okay. The swap, sell, and trade page, stuff is actually being sold off of it. So I don't know how many items are on there now. I know that there's a few things on there, but please just keep it in mind if you're looking for something or if you have something to sell. The good thing is if you put it up for sale here and somebody buys it, chances are you won't have to do any shipping on it. So that can save a huge hassle. So I'll pause for a moment to see if anyone has anything that they would like to sell, or if there's anything you're looking for to buy or swap. Okay. All right, just a quick plug for Amazon Smile. We got our most recent donation from them. We got $51 and some change donated on February 21st. Program is great. It doesn't cost you any extra. You just go to Amazon, smile.amazon.com instead of amazon.com. If you choose Amateur Radio Club of Columbia County as your charity, we get a very small percentage. Doesn't cost you any extra, but this is the equivalent of 2 new members every quarter as far as a funding stream goes. So easy money, and we appreciate everyone who has done that. I know that my family does their part to keep these donations coming in. Oops. All right, Treasurer's Report. This is about a week ago, so it's actually going to be a little bit higher than this. Rick, I'll turn it over to you for any comments. But it's fairly straightforward. Oops.
I'm sorry, unmute.
That's okay.
In the main account, we've got $5,152.89. Our PayPal account has $1,000. We have pending transfer from PayPal is $2,767.89. We've got $150 in petty cash. In our VE account, we've got $959.10. Total funds currently are $9,070.78. We have commitments to the repeater committee of $4,204.90. Our domain name renewal is $171.79, and we've got commitment to pay for 4 handy-talkies, which have been already purchased for $125. So funds available to support operations is $4,569.09. We have filed our Form 990, which is the federal renewal statement for our 501 status. And sometime this week, I'm going to be going over to the county to go ahead and file our required county paperwork.
Awesome. I appreciate that rundown. Does anyone have any questions for Rick regarding the treasurer's report?
Got one question, Rick. This is Walter. Do you file the 990N as in November, or is it the regular 990 form?
This was the regular 990 form.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. We're looking for a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I so move.
Okay, that was Walter. Is there a second to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll second.
Hey, I think Eric might have just barely beat you out there, Bill. Thanks. Is there any discussion regarding the treasurer's report? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Are there any opposed to accepting the treasurer's report as submitted? Hearing no opposition, that will pass, and the treasurer's report will go into record. Our secretary's report is posted on the ARCCC website, so there's a link in these slides. The slides are available there if anyone needs me to read anything out of that record. I will. Otherwise, we'll be looking for a motion to accept the secretary's report. It's always available on the website before the meeting, as well as the slides from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion, Dan.
Okay, that was Bill. Thanks.
I'll second that.
That was Rick. Thanks, Rick. Okay. Any discussion about the secretary's report? Is there any opposition to accepting the secretary's report? Okay, we'll take that as a pass. Thanks. We're through the toughest of the business now. Okay, just a quick reminder of upcoming events. These slides are already actually posted up on our webpage, so you can access the links that are in the slides if you go there. Couple that we'll draw attention to the Ridge Amateur Radio Club tailgate. Always a great little tailgate party up there in Leesville, next door to some really good barbecue. So hopefully some folks will get out and do that. I don't have it on here, but is it, Rusty, is it the Sevierville Ham Fest coming up this weekend?
That's correct. Sevierville Ham Fest, and it's going to be rain or shine, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. Still haven't got any confirmation. I've seen some indications that maybe the Atlanta Ham Fest. We'll be talking about Field Day a little bit later. Probably the second biggest ham fest, at least on the eastern U.S., Huntsville, coming up later this year. And we've seen indications that Shelby and Stone Mountain may go as scheduled. So hopefully Hamfest are back. And then we'll also talk about the Columbia County EMA Public Safety and Preparedness Day coming up in the blistering heat of August. I want to pause here, Bill, to see if anyone had any questions or comments from Facebook.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. If Rachel doesn't mind me putting her on the spot, I would like her, if she's okay, to talk through this one, and then we'll handle any questions or concerns that come up.
Sure, I think I can take it. So just to give everyone an ARIS update, if you haven't been here before or if you're new, the Radio Club is sponsoring the application for one of our local schools, the Savannah River Academy, which is a private K through 8th grade school that has about 100 students. They got accepted to make a radio contact for the International Space Station through the ARIS program. They were only one of 7 schools in the United States. Now the contest isn't until fall, so we're gearing them up the best way they can, but of course, teaching them ham radio. So this whole month of March, we're basically in the classroom every Wednesday, teaching them ham radio. Our first class went amazing. We did an introduction to Morse code, and we went over the phonetic alphabet. This Wednesday, we're introducing them to ham radios, how to make a contact, and really kind of some of the language and jargon we use as ham radio operators. Kids will be divided into 2 groups, one on walkie-talkies practicing making calls, and the other group is going to be designing their very own QSL cards. These are great activities for the K through 5th grade that we're likely to interact with. Now, we're really hoping to get some more volunteers.
For your supper? No? Okay, you still in your meeting? Okay.
We're really hoping to get some more volunteers to come out. We're actually going to be in the classroom 3 times in April and 3 times in May. In April, we're going to focus on an introduction to outer space, the atmosphere, and satellite contacts, and kind of really give the kids a history of how radio is used modern day. So we might even get into a little bit of storm watch, that sort of thing. Then in May, my dream, hopefully, is we're going to kind of tie everything together and wrap up ham radio, the atmosphere, and outer space by having the students design their very own weather balloon. Dan, thankfully, got some really cool payload packages that allow students to track the balloon where it goes. So I'm right now reaching out to NOAA and a couple other organizations to see if we can, you know, borrow a weather balloon and maybe get launch permission for our own. But that's still to come. If you have experience or you know how to do this, I would love to talk to you. Please reach out to me. So what I'm here is I'm begging for volunteers for in the classrooms. We meet Wednesday afternoons. The dates are on the flyer on your email. I will repeat them to you after the meeting if you're interested remotely at all. You don't really have to have experience working with kids. We'll teach you. And the small groups that we work with are pretty easy to handle. Ask Dan, he should know. Him and Tony have been teaching both of the events thus far. We're also doing a big event on Thursday night this week. From 6 to 8, we're actually going to have a booth. I think the school is hosting like food trucks. So we're going to have a booth out there where we can target not only the kids, but hopefully their parents and introduce them to ham radio and everything that we're involved in. As I'm new to ham, I'd still love to have more experienced members out there talking about what everything is in radio and why they should still care. So if you can join us, another plea, we'd love to have you. So
okay. Thank you, Rachel. The link to contact Rachel is right there on the slide. I will call your attention to the other volunteer opportunities. We were going to try to get students on the radio to one of the local repeaters tomorrow. We're going to need to push that until March 31st. We did have Ray, appreciate you volunteer, but I don't know, what would you say total? There's maybe 35 or so kids, maybe a few more. So that's a lot of talking. So we could even potentially move them on to 2 repeaters. So if anyone, if you can't come to the school, you can get on one of the repeaters and talk to these kids. They have a list of questions, and they're gonna know the very basics of a QSO, but we're not gonna hold them to a licensed standard. But we will have a control operator there with them, so they would love that. Hopefully they won't be mic shy. Also, sometime probably later, I'm guessing in May, on not a day of the weather balloon, we would like to set up an HF station, and we have the capability to do that, to give an introduction to what you can hear on HF as compared to what you can hear on the local repeaters. In addition to our sponsorship, the ARIS assigned an educational ambassador to support us with this. Her name is Martha Muir. She's with the North Fulton Amateur Radio League. North Fulton actually gave us $50 to put towards any expenses that we've had, which we've incurred a few with some of the activities that we've done. They also sent us 10 Morse code practice oscillator kits. So Gene has graciously agreed to build 5 of these kits. So if there's a kit builder out there, these are small things. They don't look too complicated. So if anybody else would be interested in building a few of these kits for us, that would be appreciated. So there's ways to help us beyond just getting in there and getting your hands dirty in the classroom. But let me just tell you, it's fun. I did it last week. It's pretty awesome. And in a minute, I'll tell you my funny story that happened during that one. So it's always good for some laughs, in addition to really seeing the kids get interested in this was pretty amazing. Rachel already mentioned about the balloon launch. We have a payload that's a very small APERS and Whisper beacon that we're going to put on there. We have the solar panel to attach to it. So it's a matter of getting that built and testing it. We would also be interested in doing a kids fox hunt. So, kind of like what we do, only kind of set up for kids in the age group. We would need operators to work and guide the kids through that activity. We don't have a date really set for those things. These are going to be towards the end. So if you have expertise in that and you want to help us set that up, then please do that. Once again, I'll put out a call. I know that there will be at least 3 of us there on Thursday evening from 6 to 8. We're going to have at the very least a static display. We'll have some ARL brochures, and again, trying to get, we're already working to hook students, but if we can get parents interested in it, that's a great outreach opportunity. I'll pause there to see if there are any questions that anyone has about this, as far as what the expectations are. It's really fun. Okay. You've probably already seen these pictures if you saw the email, but this is the activity that we did last week. If you look down there in the lower right, Tony Rizzi, who's one of the guys that's been helping us with this, made that Morse code key out of a block of wood, some screws, and a screwdriver. The kids thought that was amazing, that you can MacGyver up a code key, and they were in there sending their name and sending other information on it. The other activity you see there is we made bracelets with beads that spelled out their initials in Morse code. So they had to look at the chart, figure out which beads corresponded to dits, which corresponded to das, and which corresponded to spaces. There were a couple of kids in there that we had to walk them through there, but there were also several kids that as soon as I put that little working aid down, they were doing it. I mean, I didn't even have to explain it. They were already putting it together. So this is a pretty smart group. The story that I want to tell you that we still laugh about today, we divided the kids into groups and had them do their initials in the phonetic alphabet. So they had the phonetic alphabet chart. There were two young men sitting next to each other who were going through there, and we had them write their initial on a card and then go down the phonetic alphabet and match up their names. Both of these young men sitting next to each other were really delighted to learn that their last name that started with a W equated to whiskey. They thought that was pretty awesome. And then when they realized that both of their last name phonetic alphabet was whiskey, for the rest of the entire class, they referred to themselves as the Whiskey Brothers, to the great delight of everyone else in the room. So that was a fun little story. I shuddered to think of what their parents heard when they went home that evening, that we taught them about whiskey. But anyway, I'm sure there's more stories like that to come. I think, as we mentioned, we have some walkie-talkie FRS radios. They're going to be designing a QSL card. Whoever has the contacts with them next week on the March 31st just might get a homemade QSL card made by the students in this class, which will be a great little piece of memorabilia for you to hold on to in your collection. So it was really fun. Lots of opportunity here. So I hope that some folks will contact Rachel and really, let us do this right. We're saving everything that we do, and we're doing after actions after each event. We're saving the material so that if we want to do outreach with other schools, we won't have to start from zero to do that as well. And we have been documenting and sending some of this to David Vine. Mark, I know that I owe you something. We'll probably wrap up after the first month and send something to you. These reports are going up to ARIS. They're going to ARL. So this is really good publicity for ham radio and for ham radio and the CSRA in particular. Any questions or comments about the ARIS and Savannah River Academy? Seriously, don't miss out on it. It was really a lot of fun. Everything I have for business is kind of old business, the stuff that we've already talked about, but I'll do a pause for new business after we get done. Just want to mention again, Columbia County Public Safety and Preparedness Day on August 28th. We've been invited to set up an information booth, or really we've been given the leeway to do anything we want to do, an operating event. But in order to do that, we will need some folks to coordinate it and staff it. So I am hoping that someone will be willing to step up and do that. This is also a great public outreach opportunity for us to show what ham radio is doing in our community, particularly in the realm of emergency preparedness. So also, I think last meeting, Susie mentioned that we would have an opportunity to team with ARES to do something, but again, requires people to do this thing. So I'll pause there and see if anyone is interested in taking this on. You'll have the full support of the board and resources and whatever you need. And typically what happens as soon as someone steps up to volunteer to coordinate, there's usually followed by a few people who are relieved that they don't have to be the leader and will volunteer to help.
So Dan, this is Susan. So, I'll work with whoever, if there's someone, I'll work with them and we'll do a joint effort. So I'll co-lead with somebody.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
Oh,
This is Bill. I'd be willing to participate and, maybe even lead the effort if nobody else wants to lead, but, certainly, be willing to staff the event if nothing else.
Okay, I do believe that we will find people to staff once it's organized. This one's not all that complex. Really, it's just getting us out there with a canopy, a table. We have information from ARL for brochures, and then it's as people stop by, we have some business cards for the club. We answer their questions, and typically a few people do have questions about what's involved with the hobby, and it's a really great opportunity. You don't have to be the most experienced or seasoned ham in the world, but I appreciate Susan and Bill. So if you don't mind, what I'll do is I'll kind of capture you two, and then maybe we'll push an email out. So if people are shy about speaking up tonight, maybe they can contact you. I'll work with Rusty, and we'll build a email alias for that. Rusty, we can do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
All right.
this is,
Go
I
ahead.
can go, probably set aside a little bit of a time on a Wednesday to go ahead and maybe do a kids level lecture on something like, propagation and layers of the atmosphere. And
that would be amazing.
Yes.
Rick, so Rachel has been kind of our central coordinator. Whether that's with or against her will, I'm not sure, but she kind of just naturally fell into that position. Okay, thanks everybody. So I'm hoping that this will be good news for most everyone. I know that some people may be a little nervous, still with where we are at COVID, but barring anything unforeseen, if the trends continue the way we are, we've received permission, and we will resume our meetings at the Columbia County EOC with our April meeting on the 27th. We are going to try to figure out a way to still push this out on Facebook Live, but it will probably not also be on Zoom. Just, we got a couple of technical things to figure out, really mainly in the audio realm, to make sure we're picking it up. But for those who, maybe don't want to go back to in person, we'll make sure there's an option, and at the very least, it will be recorded. So hopefully we're getting back to some sense of normal. Collection of membership dues has started. Pushed out an email early in the month. They're coming in. Appreciate everyone doing that. I'll probably send another reminder. What do you get for your dues of membership? You get a vote. Also, you get to be constantly asked by me to volunteer for events. I mean, that's totally worth it, right? But the more that we do, the more that all of our members get out of the club. So we'll continue to. Hopefully, most people will renew their membership. If not, we appreciate the time that was spent with the club. Any questions about those three things before I move into the next big one? Anything on Facebook, Bill?
No, nothing new.
Okay. So field day, if the trends continue, now the field day rules for last year were extended, where you can participate from home and contribute your points towards a club total. So that's there. But if the trends continue, doing field day in person is probably one of the most educational and fun activities that a club can do. Friendly competition, learning event, always great food with this club. So, but it's not terribly difficult to set it up, but there are a lot of moving parts to it. So field day does not happen without a committee and people directing it and people organizing and staffing it. So no committee, no field day for the club. Like I said, for the other events, you will have everyone that's on the board of directors at your disposal. We kind of automatically become members of your committee for field day, and you can task us with various things. It's really, I can't overstate the value to learning, particularly for new hams. Don't feel like you have to be an expert to do this, because a lot of the activities that we have to do are not necessarily technical in nature. We always have people who are willing to step up and do plan things like antennas, excuse me, setting up transceivers. A lot of times it's just pinning down a location, setting up a schedule. We do learning events. We do sometimes we do a VE test session at field day. So really, and if we're going to have field day at the end of June, 3 months away, we're probably already late with a start. So please contact me if you're interested. Once we get someone who's willing to kind of step up, if you're the director, basically means you're telling other people what to do, assigning other people tasks. So if anyone wants to do that, see, I already see somebody who's volunteering to help out. Robert will volunteer to set up antennas and equipment. So if anyone is willing to kind of step in and be a director, or 2 people can be co-directors, it's fine with us. Please contact anyone on the board of directors. Won't put you on the spot tonight, but I will tell you, if we have not got this set up by April, we're probably really far behind, in particular on pinning down a venue during that time of year. If it's because people are feeling uncomfortable, then obviously we'll respect that. Any questions or comments about?
Now, last year, I think it worked out great when we only did it for 1 day instead of 24 hours. So I think we did the Girl Scout Club last year, and we set up really early, and we actually, right when we shut down, a storm hit. So
that's a good point.
I don't want to do it 2 days. We did it just on Saturday, and we did it all day, and everybody seemed to like it that way. But
yeah, and they're not here tonight, but I would be willing to bet. In fact, I think at the last meeting, the Cunninghams agreed that they would take on the food prep again this year. So you really get some pretty amazing food. So club pays for everything.
I'm willing to provide manpower. This is Gene. But I can't, unfortunately, my schedule sometimes can't be predicted that far ahead.
Understand, Gene. If we start to, so I've already captured 2 people willing to help out. We might get enough that, like I said, we will help from the board of directors to do this as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. David, I don't think David Corselia is not on tonight. So he would have had this update on the Bel Air Road repeater, but I'll to the best of my ability recall, actually, Walter, would you be willing to share with us what you know about that?
Unfortunately, I really don't have any information at all.
Okay. Here's what I can share. David met with the county, who approved the work, but I wanted had a company that they would prefer to do that. So he has met with them to make sure it's going to fit within the funding that we had already set aside for it. Also, his contact at the county indicated that the county might actually be willing to subsidize some of the cost on this work. And the plan is we will get the 70 centimeter repeater back up and running, new cables, antenna upgrades, and I believe also, if I'm not mistaken, the 6-meter repeater will be moved over to the Bel Air Road site, up on a much higher place to increase the coverage on it. I believe that's the plan. If anyone has any questions about that, there's a form on the webpage, I believe, for the repeater committee. Is that correct, Rusty?
That is correct. There is a form. If there's any questions, it goes to the entire repeater committee.
Okay, and of course they will always accept additional expertise and help on that committee as well. And you know, that's probably one of the premier things that we, but besides our outreach and VE sessions, that's probably one of the premier services that we offer to hams in the area. So that is moving forward. I know it's taken a long time. We've been at this for over a year now. Been a little bit painstaking, but we moved it forward a little bit over the past month. That is all I have for any of the business, and I'll pause to see if anyone has any additional announcements or business to bring up. Okay, or any new business? We're just have been kind of carrying forward the same business. Okay. I will ask Rusty, any updates from IT?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I think we kind of covered repeater. Walter, is there anything besides Bel Air Road to update?
No, I think everything's going well.
Okay. Anyone here from Net Control? All right, I'll put the standard plug in. We're always looking for additional net controllers. It's a lot of fun. Basically, the way it works out now, you only have to do it about every other month with the number that we have now. More net controllers means less often hearing the same voices on there every time. Shannon, anything from VE?
I do have a few things. You said that was a big test session, which it was. We had 22 people show up, 17 technicians, 3 generals, and 2 extras. And also, if nobody saw the site, that was Walter's 100 test session for him for the VE. And thank you to all the VEs that come out. I'm always looking for more VEs. So anybody that hint got their extra, you can go on the ARL site and do an open book test to become a VE. I'm also going to try to look for an alternative place to take over the other test sessions on the even numbers of the months. And I may have one place in Growtown to maybe temporarily use because I didn't want to, put the EOC out and use them every weekend for their stuff. But and also got an email from Maria from the ARL, and they said the test fees as of right now are not going up until they get a letter from somewhere, she said. So right now they're still $15 for the test fees, and it looks like you were talking about the licenses earlier. It looks like they must be running behind on submitting everybody's license. They got their thing a few weeks ago. So I guess if they hold out until this Saturday, they'll probably be posted in there, their call signs.
Yeah, I hope so. It's taking a long time. I've been checking every day.
And then also I'm going to send an email to all the VEs to see if anybody wants to be removed from the VE group, or if you don't get an email and you want to be added to our VE group. Because I know there's some people on the other team, but I probably don't have their emails from the CSRA VE group. But anybody that wants to be removed, can let me know they want to be removed or they want to stay on, but we're still looking for more VEs too. So.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Dan, comment?
Go ahead.
Yeah, in answer to what Shannon said, talked to Rusty, and also today I talked to a Mr. Miller, coordinating to get the Saturday session at the POB1 building back. He's talking to their folks, should know tomorrow, what that allows is Shannon, if she desires, could take over the alternate month at the old POB1 building. I should know within the next couple of days. It's open for business. That's the bottom line. The question is, has it been scheduled? But I should know in a couple of days.
Awesome. Great update. Thank you for that, Ray. Quick comment on Constitution and bylaws. I voluntold Jim, and he agreed to do that, to review the Constitution and bylaws. I would encourage all club members to go on the website, look at our Constitution and bylaws. If you have any suggestions about potential things we should consider for change, please work with Jim Cunningham, KV4YA, and we will, once they're done with their review and have recommendations, we'll bring those before the club for consideration. We'll probably present them by email in plenty of time for everyone to review before we discuss them at a club meeting. And I'll make sure I review the process that we have to do to approve those. Okay, I think unless anyone else has a committee update, we'll move ahead. Susan, any updates from Aries this month?
No, we're just working toward our May 8th exercise with the American Red Cross. So we'll be operating out of the EOC that day, and probably might try to engage some other folks. So if anyone's interested, be sure to contact me. There's contact information on the website. That's all.
Yes, definitely. I wish I had more time because we partner as a club with our local Aries. It's a great organization, and really some great training that you can get for emergency preparedness. So serving the community, but also some really good for your own personal preparedness. You'll find a lot there. So thank you, Susan. All right. I don't believe Devon is with us this evening. I don't know if there are any other Amron members on here who might have an update. Going once. Okay, we'll catch up hopefully next month. Really quick review here for motions. What did we do? We accepted the treasurer's report. We accepted something like 16 new members. I want to skip that one. Congratulations and welcome. Accepted the treasurer's report, accepted the secretary's report. I think we roped in Bill and Susan to kind of lead our effort on the Public Safety and Preparedness Day. Still looking for someone for the to kind of take the lead on field day, but Gene and Robert both volunteered to help with the execution. Appreciate that. More to follow there. So we do have a presentation this evening, but in order to give full time to Eric, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? The business meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Rusty, is there a second?
A second.
Is that Walter?
Yes.
Okay. So any discussion? Any opposed to adjourning the business meeting so we can move to the presentation? Okay, 7:52, the meeting, and I will, I'm gonna, first I want to thank Eric Baxton for joining us this evening. We haven't had as many presentations, so thank you, Eric, for joining us. I have your presentation here over on the other screen. Hopefully everyone has seen that new slide pop up.
Yeah, it looked good. If we can go just a little smaller how you had it before, I think it looked great.
Let me see. I got to move some windows around. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Is that better or no?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sorry. I'm only working with one screen, so.
That's okay. No, everything looks good now. Even with a little bit bigger, that works too. I just want to make sure everybody can see the full slide.
Okay.
I don't know how big they are on their end, but so far everything looks pretty good. I just want to go ahead and introduce DMR to the CSRA. There's a few people that are already using DMR, and we've got a small group together here that we're trying to introduce folks to who are interested in digital mobile radio. My name is Eric Baxton, so I've been trying to meet with folks from Fort Gordon, folks from the Augusta Club, and some folks in the Columbia County Club. And we've been talking on DMR using the TGIF network. I'm gonna get into that in a minute. I want to make this just an introduction, so I'm not going to get too technical with this class. But what that is there's a separate network that has talk groups, and we have a talk group that somebody by the name of Drew. I forget what his last name is, and I apologize, but Drew created a talk group for the CSRA, and all I've been doing is promoting that by having a Facebook group for the for that talk group. And what that talk group does is we help each other with issues with getting onto digital modes. Or just getting into ham radio in general. It's a bunch of people elmering each other. We've got some folks out in Florida. We've got a lot of veterans. We've got a lot of people from all walks of life in this group. Some folks have a public safety background, etc. So as you can see on the bottom there, I have the DMR logo. I put the Brandmeister logo on there. People are probably wondering, what is Brandmeister? Well, there's two really popular networks out there. One is Brandmeister and one is TGIF. And there's talk groups all over the world on both of them. Right? So you can pick and choose whichever one you want to go and explore. I'll get more into that here in a moment. Can I flip to the next slide, please? All right. So one of the things that I want to talk about with the DMR, we've always heard the term narrowband, and you hear time slots and other things. People wonder, what is that? Why do we need that? Well, first of all, our regular 20 kilohertz spacing on VHF or 25 kilohertz spacing on UHF, it uses up the frequency, and other people aren't able to communicate during that. So if you're looking to preserve some channel spacing, for lack of a better term, you can have two different conversations going on the same repeater or on the same hotspot. You can have one conversation going on using time slot 1, and you can have another one going on time slot 2. What does that mean? Similarly to like when you use your Wi-Fi devices, they only have a few channels available. Nobody interferes with each other. You're all able to communicate and get out onto the net, and you're all able to communicate. So I like to use that analogy because it's just a plain analogy that everybody understands. I know there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more technical jargon behind that, but I'm not going to get into it for the introduction sake of the course. I do discuss that more in depth on the TGIF group 358, which is our group that we talk on the radio. And I also meant to talk more about that type of stuff on the Facebook page for the group. That's how we ask questions and help each other out. So that's a great resource that's available to you if you're interested. But similarly to how you have a room of computers, everyone's able to still use frequencies and talk, right? So rather than having an entire frequency tied up by one person having communication, one person keys down on the radio, they press the mic, and now that frequency is completely in use. Well, you have the option to go to other talk groups. Even better, let's say you have a hotspot or a device that you connect to the internet with in your home. You can talk to anybody in the world using that device. So I can take similarly to how, if you've used D-Star, it's a similar technology. There's even talk groups that tie together System Fusion, NXDN, D-Star, All-Star nodes. They tie it all together. So it doesn't matter which mode that you're on. They have cross modes, which allows you to talk from one mode to another and still carry on a QSO. So that's getting a little bit beyond the scope of this class, but I wanted to keep it real simple and just explain that there are other methods of communicating using DMR also. Next slide, please. All right, so these little hotspots that I was talking about, there's a bunch of different vendors and a bunch of different kinds out there. All it is a little computer, and it's got a VFO. Some of them have dual VFO, some of them have single VFO. So you can take an HT on low power, and that becomes your gateway, or for lack of a better term, that's your little repeater. I have one that's very similar to the one that's on the bottom left-hand corner on the far end over here, and I have one that's on the far right-hand side as well. I have a dual VFO one. So all that is a little Raspberry Pi computer. Now, there are some nicer ones out there that are like the Open Spot and more expensive ones. And I say nicer ones because these are ones that are a little bit more polished and manufactured for end users and consumers. These are a little bit more gritty because these are more like kits that you'd put together. Now, you can purchase these pre-assembled. And what that allows you to do is that's your radio gateway. You can use D-Star, you can use DMR, and you can use just about any other mode and you can do cross mode. So I can take System Fusion, I can go out to DMR, I can do D-Star into DMR, etc. So I can talk to somebody that has a different piece of equipment, and I can use this little computer just to be able to have that communication. I made several QSOs to people that were using System Fusion equipment from a D-Star radio, just using that little radio. Now I can eventually, if we do another class, I can do a demonstration of that, and I can do a live demonstration if the time comes where we actually have that available to us again in the future. But it takes an RF signal in, and it goes out through your network, and you determine what network. Remember, I mentioned previously that there was a Brandmeister network, and then there's a TGIF network. But those are just DMR networks, and there's several other ones also. What if I just want to do D-Star only? Well, I can do that too. I can take my little D-Star handheld, and that is now my repeater. I can take that in the mobile with me. I can take that out to a campsite and have that set up. I'm extending the range of my radios. So I'm no longer limited by just the physical distance, how far I am from the repeater. I can talk to anybody that's on a reflector or in a talk group, regardless of how far away I am from that person. I've made contacts with Kuwait, Germany, Moldova. I've made contacts in Korea and Spain, all on the Brandmeister network and the Worldwide Talk Group, which is 91. Now, I've also made lots of local contacts on TGIF on 358 because that's what we designed, what that talk group was originally designed for. So it was a place to meet other hams in the area that are interested in digital modes. So one of the things I did mention on this slide and the third bullet was that you can either make a group call or a private call. So let's say I just want to talk point to point like I'm making a phone call. I can put in your radio ID, you can put in my radio ID, and we can just talk to each other directly and have a conversation, and that's it. We won't interfere with anybody else that's out there. If I want to make a call, I would go to a talk group, and that talk group would be the group call. All I have to do is key the hand mic, and now whatever I say is audible to anybody that is in that talk group. So even if you're not using my hotspot, let's say you're using a repeater located somewhere else that has that same talk group available, I'll be able to talk to them. So it's all linked through the internet. Next slide, please. All right, so one of the things that I did mention was the Raspberry Pi, the MMDVM, the hotspot. I'm using a lot of lingo, and I'd like to clarify. So the OpenSpot is a specific brand of a hotspot. It is made by a company, and that is their product. They call it that. It does the same thing as the regular hotspots that I showed you in the previous slide. Same thing with the DV Mega. DV Mega is a branded product. It is still a computer, and it still has a board. Now, this board that I'm talking about, when I say MMDVM, it's a multi-mode digital voice, and I forget what the last M stands for. But what it does is it does multiple types of communication. So it's not just only D-Star or only DMR or only Yaesu Fusion. It does all of them, and that's done through the Raspberry Pi computer combined with that MMDVM board. You put those two together and you use the Pi-Star software, and voila, you have a gateway that you can use on your to communicate with. So that's what I wanted to mention on the end over here. They all serve the same purpose. Whichever you prefer, that's up to you. Some people are ICOM fans, some people are Kenwood fans, some people like Motorola. There's TYT, there's Anytone, there's a bunch of different vendors out there. You use the equipment that you're comfortable with or that you prefer. It's the buyer's choice. Next slide, please. All right, so one of the things I did want to mention is radioid.net. What is that? Well, what radioid.net does is you associate your call sign with a specific ID number that is specific to you. And similarly to how QRZ works, you have QRZ, you go in there and you see everybody's call sign and it has their information. Well, radioid.net is exactly the same thing, but it's for digital modes. So if I'm going to use DMR, I specifically get a radio ID number that's assigned to me. And when I key up on my radio, people are automatically going to see my call sign and my first name, and they're going to know that that is me on the radio, that I'm the person that's talking. So that's where you would go to get that assigned before you use any DMR radios. Before you decide to key up on any of those groups, you would go to that website and you'd register your call sign to make sure that you get a ID number assigned to that. Next slide, please. And this is the dashboard. So what I did is I took a picture of what mine looks like. All right. So if you see in the picture where it says modes enabled, I have the ability to use D-Star, DMR, Yaesu Fusion, P25, and I can do cross mode, Yaesu cross mode, NXDN, DMR, and a couple of other ones as well. I'm not trying to confuse anybody and tell you what all this other stuff does. If you understand what the different digital modes do, then you'll understand that this device does a lot more than only DMR. But I'm focusing on trying to help folks get started with DMR and how to communicate using that. So what you see on the right-hand side there in the red, that is actually my hotspot. Took the screenshot with the intent on showing I have a transmit and I have a receive frequency. In this case, I had a dual VFO hotspot. So I have a separate transmit receive frequency that I'm able to enter the DMR network of my choice. I have it set up for Brandmeister. So when I use the Brandmeister network, I have specific talk groups that are assigned to that network. So the reason I'm going a little bit more into detail about that is because the talk groups that are defined in one network may not be the same number in another network. So you want to make sure that you go and take a look at the list of talk groups for that network and make sure that you're using the correct one. Like for example, on TGIF 358 means that you're here in the CSRA. But if you're on Brandmeister, I believe it means that you're in South America somewhere. So it's assigned to a specific country. So that's another thing. You can't use the same numbers on both networks. So there's more about that, and I can help at a later time if you're interested in learning more about how to find talk groups. And you can find those on the tgif.network webpage or the prime.tgif.network webpage. Or if you go to Brandmeister and you look up talk groups, you can find theirs over there as well. And there's an extensive list that's continuously being updated. Next slide, please. All right, so remember I mentioned all these different networks. Here's an example. I just wanted to get like an illustration. So I got one ham. He's using a repeater. We're going to pretend that that's their repeater. It looks kind of funny, I know. And they're talking on one frequency. Now, the person that's on ham 2, that's using that handheld, let's say that they're using a hotspot. And it's what you see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, that little hotspot right there with the little antenna in between the two HTs. You don't have to be on the same physical frequency, but you do have to be in the same talk group. So as long as those talk groups work, it doesn't matter where in the world you want to talk. As long as you have, at some point, you have a gateway to get onto the internet. In this case, it would be either your repeater or your hotspot. That's going to allow you to communicate. What are those bullets I put on there? Those are all different networks. So there's a Brandmeister network, there's a TGIF network. I believe in the state of Georgia here, they have a K4USD network, which is specifically for the state of Georgia, and they have their own talk groups as well. And then there's the original DMR mark. So when DMR was first becoming a thing and it started getting popularity, DMR mark was really the only one, and then eventually became Brandmeister, being probably second to that, one of the most popular one, actually probably the most popular right now. So I just want to ask if there's any questions so far. Did I confuse anybody? Did I explain myself well? Is there anything I could do better? What did you guys think about DMR? Is anybody already using it?
So Eric, this is Bill. You know, a couple of years ago, I bought a DMR radio and was a little bit overwhelmed with the use of, code plugs and things like that, and the inability to program the radio like I would a normal VHF, UHF radio that uses repeaters. How have people overcome that? Because now I use D-Star because I have a Kenwood D74. I have a Raspberry Pi sitting back here behind me. But DMR is still a little bit of a mystery to me. Help me out a little bit on, code plugs and things like that.
Sure. So when you think of the code plug, think of like your car FM stereo, right? Rather than me manually plugging in each of the frequencies in there. So the channel, if you're thinking analog, you're thinking you have a channel which is your preset on the radio, right? You have a frequency and that gets assigned to a channel, that channel being your preset. In this case, with the code plug, we're going to go a step even further. And when we're assigning contacts on there, that contact could be another person. That contact could be a specific talk group. So I'm going to use 91 as an example. That's going to be my general number that I'm going to use for all these examples. All right. So let's say I want to use talk group 91. I assign that in my radio, and I would use the same frequency, and I would add that as a contact. And when I do that, it allows me to always contact that group rather than an individual. And the other person on the other end would contact that group as well. And that would allow me to talk to anybody else that's in that group. So we would all program that the same way. I can help you out with some sample code plugs and show you what some of the ones are that I have. I have some Motorola gear that I use. And that's part of what we do also with that Facebook group. We have a bunch of people that we're trying to help figure out their radios, figure out code plugs. That's that TGIF 358 CSRA group. And I'm not trying to pull people. We're not a club. It's just a bunch of ham radio operators that play with DMR radios. Some of the folks are in different locations, but that's the place to ask a lot of questions. And one of the tools that I use to help people with Raspberry Pi configurations and writing code plugs, I use TeamViewer. It's a free program. And I recommend that highly because that allows somebody to share with me their screen and they can show me what they're working with. And if there's something that needs to be changed, I can see it right on the screen. And one-on-one, either over the phone or through Facebook or even directly using a microphone and headset, we can talk to each other through that program. That's one of the things that a lot of my difficulties were. I had to go and look on YouTube, and I had to rely on other people's knowledge to get myself started. And what my goal is to be a lot more of an Elmer on DMR and digital modes because it doesn't seem to exist. It took me about 6 months to get my own equipment working, and that was with I had TYT equipment, and I have nothing against it. I love it. I just decided to go Motorola because I like Part 90 gear. So I like using commercial gear. I like the way that the battery lasts. I like the audio. So, but the fundamentals on writing the code plug didn't change. So just because someone else has a different type of radio doesn't mean I can't write a code plug for it. I can write a code plug for DMR for anybody's radio. I just need to know what talk groups do you want to talk on? What are the numbers of those talk groups? What network is it going to be on? So that way I can associate the correct name to it. And I need to know, is your hotspot going to be simplex? Is it going to be duplex? How many presets can you put into your radio? Does it only hold 16 per zone? Is it hold 22 per zone? And that's specific to the type of equipment that you're using. But I'd be more than happy to help with troubleshooting and getting more into the weeds as far as setting up the equipment. We can even do tests. One of the things I didn't mention is there's actually a talk group out there on both Brandmeister and TGIF. It's called Parrot. And the whole purpose of that is to test your audio and to see if you're actually getting out onto the network. And you literally just make a private call between you and that talk group. And it has to be a private call. Otherwise, everybody's going to hear you, right? So you key up, and whatever you say into the radio for, let's say I talk for 10 seconds. I do a 10-second countdown. I unkey. That's going to play that same audio directly back to me and only me. So that way I know what I sound like and if I'm actually getting out through the network. So you have means of testing your audio that you normally wouldn't on the analog side. You're also testing your internet connectivity that way too. But you also have the dashboard available to you. So remember that what you saw on the previous slide, you saw that little red screen that was back there. And that's what mine looks like. If you buy another piece of equipment like from like an open spot or something, your screen might look a little different, but it's going to have the same things on there. It's going to have what talk group you're listening to, who you're talking to. It's going to have the person's name and the person's call sign. So you can view it on the screen. Sometimes what I like to do is I'll just pull it up on my phone. And if I want to and I'll have my phone in front of me, and I can view the names and call signs of everyone that I'm talking to on there. All right. I don't think I have another slide, do I? Is that the last one? I think that's the last one.
Yeah, that's the last one. I have a question for you, Eric.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So what is your strategy? Because you're using a lot of different networks there. Do you have a strategy for sort of maintaining different configurations? So if you want to work TGIF today and tomorrow you want to do Brandmeister, how do you kind of switch among those?
So here's the part that's a little bit tricky. And when I go to input the talk groups into my radio doesn't care what network it's on. What I do is I make a zone. I have a zone on my radio that is specifically for Brandmeister, and I just call it BM. So that's Brandmeister, and I make a separate zone that's just TGIF. And I keep the specific talk groups in there. That way I know what to name them, and I know specifically what talk group I'm going to be using. So for when I go to display it, I might not always know what 91 means. So for example, 91 is worldwide. So I make sure that I actually do the label on my preset as 91 worldwide. Now I know I'm on Brandmeister and I'm on talk group 91. So you can actually have both networks running simultaneously on your hotspot. I don't recommend that yet because I mean, me personally, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm kind of cheating a little bit. What I do is I actually have two hotspots. I have one that's dedicated to only Brandmeister, and I have one that's only dedicated to TGIF. I bought a third hotspot and I haven't even set it up yet. I still have it in the box, brand new. That's the one I'm going to take that one and set it up to where I have both Brandmeister and TGIF, and I'm going to do some demonstrations. I'm going to make some recordings. I'm going to make a PowerPoint of how I did it step by step. I just learned that you could do that maybe about 2 months ago, and I have yet to spend the time to actually go through how to do the settings. And there's not a lot of documentation, and that's what's really making me want to push to get this information out to other ham radio operators, because it can be a lot easier to use. The learning curve is really steep, and it makes a lot of people not want to get into that. I'm a little bit of an IT nerd. My regular full-time job, I work in IT for Augusta University. I'm a green suiter right now. I'm on orders teaching for the military. So I'm also an instructor, but I'm also part of Signal Corps and a ham radio operator. So I can't believe they actually pay people to do my job, right? But that's where my interest in computers and ham radio has really kind of married together. These operating systems for the Raspberry Pis people have put together. So what you see on the screen right there, that's someone's open spot. That's exactly what their gateway would look like. If they were to key up on one of their radios, I see that they're using D-Star mode, and it shows the transmit and receive frequencies there. It's almost identical. This is their information. And as you can see right there, he's got CQ, and there's the call sign right there. So you can see what communication is going on, what you will be hearing when you're connected to that gateway. They're listening to reflector 30 Charlie there. If I was on DMR, it would have that information. If I was using my Pi-Star and I was on D-Star, I would be seeing that same information because I would be listening to the same reflector. One thing that I did not mention to you guys that is pretty interesting, if you want to give it a try, there is a program out there called DudeStar. So if you're an Echolink user and you have a microphone and a headset, you can actually do D-Star from your computer using the DudeStar software. It also does DMR, and it also does Yaesu Fusion as well. But again, you're still going to need to put in your configurations to be able to talk on that. And there's a Droid version of it called DroidStar. So you don't even need to buy another radio. If you want to try it out before you actually get into it, DudeStar is open source. It's and you can find that on the internet. I have links for it available for download. If you check out the TGIF TG358 CSRA group, I know it's got a long name, but that's just the name of it. We didn't have a more fancy name to call it, but we're trying to get the word out that you can get your feet wet in those other digital modes before you actually spend the money and invest. And you can check into some of the other nets. I tried to announce when nets are going to be on what talk group, on what network, at what time, and get that information out there too, because it's very decentralized. A lot of the states, a lot of the ham radio clubs will announce internally to them, but because these networks are worldwide, there's a lot of other groups that are trying to push to get more communication. if I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a group out there called the Southeast Link, and it covers all of the Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, and all of the southeast areas. They have nets several times a week, and they have lots and lots of nets that discuss Pi Star, Raspberry Pis, troubleshooting. What are you using to get onto the net? And people are talking about all kinds of different things that they're using to use digital modes, and how they're incorporating a combination of analog and digital together with their repeater clubs. So I mean, there's a lot of things that other people are doing that I want to try and introduce into the area here. I'm not telling people not to use their local repeaters. I'm telling just the opposite. But use your local repeaters. Do communicate on there. But just be aware that there are groups out there that are willing to share all kinds of information about digital modes and Elmer other people. I just learned by listening to the nets, to be honest with you. I tried to see what kind of technical nets out there. I don't have the talk group in front of me, but there's a Sunday night Raspberry Pi net, and that's all they talk about is Raspberry Pi computers. Some of it's beyond my skill set. Some of it is right where I need to be, and I listen to it. I don't have it very much more left on this class, but if there are any more questions, I'd like to open up the floor if you have any other questions, if there's anything else I can help with.
Yeah, I would like to pause and see, Bill, just see if there are any questions that were posted in the Facebook comments.
Sure.
No, Dan, haven't seen any additional comments there.
Okay, well, we would definitely invite them. I mean, I don't want to promise too much of Eric's time, but I do have another question, Eric.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I sort of know the answer, but I haven't really done it. So, as you saw, I have an open spot 3, which is, I mean, one of the great things about this is, I can carry it in my car and connect it to my cell phone and use my HT there. But I know that with the other boards, with just a little bit of extra work, that you can make those into a mobile as well. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the hotspots that I have, and I'm going to use a lot of jargon, but I'm going to explain what I'm talking about here. I have what's called a Raspberry Pi Zero. It is a very, very small board. I wish I had it in front of me. Next time I will have it in front of me. But if you go to Google and type in Raspberry Pi Zero, you'll see that is the smallest board that they have. I previously had one on one of the other slides. You think you can pull the slide back up with all the different hotspots on there? Because there it is in the top and the bottom left-hand corner. That's a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's the very, very tiny one. So the reason I used one of those is because it doesn't take up very much battery. It doesn't take up very much space. It's very small. It's portable. The whole purpose of having one of those as a hotspot is it'll connect to Wi-Fi. It does not have an Ethernet jack. So I actually have a hotspot. I can use my phone, or I have a separate T-Mobile hotspot that runs on a battery also. And I plug it into my armrest. I have 2 USB jacks in my armrest of my truck when I'm driving. Oh, there it is. Rusty's showing a Raspberry Pi. That's the actual board right there. He's holding it up to the camera if you happen to see him on there. So I have one of those with a small screen attached to the top of it. That MMDVM board, that is what that screen is called. That's on there with the attachment. It's got SMA attachment on there for a antenna. It's very similar to what you have on your HT. They refer to that as a Raspberry Pi hat, and that literally just sits right on top of the board, and it turns my Raspberry Pi computer into a transmitter. It could be simplex or duplex, depending on how you set yours up. I just use it on simplex, and as long as I'm within range of my truck, it goes out through the internet, and I can listen to traffic all day long on it. I've turned it on during my lunchtime, and I've had. I actually take an old cell phone battery. I have just like a battery recharger, little cell phone battery recharger, and I plug both my hotspot and my Raspberry Pi into that. And now I don't even have to use the vehicle power. I can just set that in the windowsill, and now I can talk anywhere that I want to, anywhere in the world, over the DMR network. And you can do the same thing using other modes besides DMR. I specifically like using DMR. That's my personal choice, but I want you to know that it's not limited to only that. that hotspot does much more than just that. It's for digital modes. It's for all digital modes. So my presentation was catered to DMR because that's my personal taste and personal interest. I hope that answered your question. Did you have any other questions, or is there anything else that anyone else would like to ask, or any comments?
I have a question. This is David. Maybe you already said it or talked about it, but I've noticed that Bridgecom is very much marketing DMR equipment, and supposedly if you buy a hotspot or a handheld or even a mobile, they will customize it to your area and then even program your hotspot and your radio and give you a code plug that should be good for your area. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Now that's vendor specific. I can't get too much into the details about what that company is doing because I don't own any of their equipment. So I don't know what they're advertising, but I will say that you don't have to have a specific plug for any specific area because when you have a hotspot like this, all of the talk groups that you can use from anywhere in the world. I don't have to change any settings in my radio based off of where I use it. If I want to talk on a talk group, it'll go. You can use it from anywhere. If let's say I have a repeater that's local to me that has the same talk group that I want to talk on, somebody can use the repeater. I can use my hotspot, or we can both use my hotspot, or we can both use my repeater. It doesn't matter. But if you do want to program your local repeater in there, I guess that's what they are doing, I assume. But I don't have enough knowledge about what Bridgecom is doing. I can just tell you that if you have your hotspot, you have no limitations to where you can talk because you can put whatever you want in there and you can use whatever's available to you. You can even change networks if you feel like it. You can't do that with a local repeater.
And what I will comment on for Bridgecom is if they're charging something to do that. I mean, it is complicated. I'll say that, but I think once you sort of understand the concept behind it, then it's just a little bit of work. And plus, they actually also offer a lot of YouTube videos for their equipment, including how to write the code plug. And also, how to import the DMR ID database into it. So there's a lot of automated things you can do. There are a few, I would guess, sort of tedious components of when you first build the code plug, but concept that Rusty taught me through programming the analogs is save your work and then you can modify your work as you do it, not always starting from scratch. So if they're doing that for free with the equipment, then I would think maybe okay. But I know on their hotspots, they're fairly pricey with them. And I'm saying that as somebody who bought an OpenSpot 3, which is like, super pricey.
So and I'm not trying to advertise any brand. I'm very neutral. I'm very much into open source. I'm a huge Linux fan. I'm a huge fan of open source hardware. The only thing that I will say that I'm probably pretty loyal to is Motorola gear, just because that's my personal taste, my personal preference. But you don't need Motorola gear to do this. You don't even need a computer to do this. You can do this using you don't even need a hotspot to do this. You can do this with the DudeStar software if you felt like it. But the hotspot that's on the bottom left-hand corner there, the black one you see with the white cable sticking out of it, that's probably about $100 completely assembled. It's just a Raspberry Pi Zero with a small 3-inch screen on there. There are some nicer ones out there. I think the second one over, I think, is very similar to the DV Mega. That's a branded one. I don't know who carries DV Mega, who makes that brand, but there's another picture of the DV Mega. I want to say the fourth one in. That's another branded one. And when I say branded, there's companies that make their own hardware. I don't sell hardware. I'm not a vendor. I don't do any of this stuff. I'm just another ham radio operator. I just like using this stuff. So I'm just sharing my experiences with using that. But I will say off to the far right, what you see right there is 2 Raspberry Pis. You see the smallest one being the Raspberry Pi Zero, and the bigger one with the screen on there, that one being the Raspberry Pi. I want to say that's a Raspberry Pi 3B. And the reason I say that is because it uses Wi-Fi. So you can get different boards to attach to them. In this case, theirs looks like that one. I have an identical Raspberry Pi. It was the same price as my Pi Zero, but it just had 2 antennas on there because I have a dual VFO one. So I have one that's capable of doing VHF and UHF. There's no real benefit to it. I mean, whether I use simplex or whether I use duplex, neither of those really matter. The fact is that it has internet on one end, and my call goes out through a network, and I establish communications. The vehicle that you use to get out onto the network doesn't really matter. It's just as long as it's equipment that you are comfortable using and setting up. Once you have the software installed on there and you have all the settings on there, there's nothing you really need to do on the hotspot other than just make sure it has internet. That's it. When I take it out in my car, I have my phone, my phone password saved in my Raspberry Pi. I also have the separate hotspot set in there. I have that one set in there first, and the reason being is I can choose between which one I use. So when I go to plug it in, if it doesn't see the first one, it'll connect to the second one. So you can choose multiple multiple Wi-Fi username and password, log in, and it'll automatically select which one's available, just like your computer does. Once you connect, it'll automatically connect again, unless you purposely choose to forget it or remove it from your list of Wi-Fi connections.
What handheld are you using?
I have an XPR 6550. That's a Motorola. I have used a UV380 TYT radio. I have used a MD380. The only difference between the MD and the UV was one was UHF only, one was UHF and VHF. But I'm currently just using XPR 6550s. I get them for about $100 on eBay. They're fairly cheap. I just like they're ruggedized. The batteries last good on them, and I can talk on them for a very long time. That's the only reason why I choose to go with that gear.
And you'll need the software for that.
You do. That is not free, and you'll have to go about getting the proper software for that as well. Unlike that, if you choose to go with like a TYT or an Anytone, they usually provide you the software to go along with that. But again, that's a vendor preference, though. Whichever vendor you choose, they'll choose whether or not they offer the CPS with it. The code programming software, the code plug software.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So you don't need to have any super expensive gear. Everything I have is used that I use. That's just my preference was the Motorola stuff, but I've used all of the TYT. I had an MD9600, worked just fine. I had a buddy of mine that just got his ham license, and I gave that to him because he's out in California and wanted to get in DMR. So I plugged him into the Papa group that's out there in Southern California. They're fairly active, and they do a lot of analog and digital communication. So I gave him the MD9600 and a UV380, and we got him on the air, and I made contacts with him. So he's a buddy of mine that I served with for many years, and he's now medically retired from the military and just staying home and playing on ham radio. So just trying to get him on the radio. So if you hear a guy by the name of Justin and his call is KN6MAP, if you hear him on Echo Link or trying to get on there, just say hi to him. That's all. So that's all I have really for the class. As far as the presentation, I didn't have much else. I was trying to keep it fairly intro and very simple, just to explain how it all works. Now the ins and outs of it, I do get more into detail on that talk group. On the Facebook group, I do a Facebook Live. I do that weekly on Saturdays, roughly about 6 p.m., 1800. And the purpose of doing that is for people to ask questions. And maybe there's 100 other people that have the same question. I know I don't have 100 people on my Facebook Lives. I'm not popular, but maybe I have like 5 people on there, and 3 people had the same question. If I helped one person by answering their question, or if somebody else answers their question, at least we came up with a solution, or at least something to try to fix it. And that's what our goal is. We're just trying to put our heads together and help each other out in the CSRA.
Hey, Eric, I just wanted to take a minute again to thank you for doing this, and definitely would encourage folks. I liked or joined or whatever it is you do with your 358 talk group page. And I will say that Eric and really everybody there are very, very responsive to questions. There's a lot of good information kind of already archived within there. So it's worth perusing just to see what's already there. So your question may be answered within. And I was just astounded to see how many different nets there are taking place out there on all these digital modes. So like I think that we're having bad weather, some really severe weather in Louisiana today. You could probably just pull in on a emergency weather group in that area if you were interested. I mean, obviously when we we abide by the proper etiquette and don't, chime in to somebody else's weather emergency, but you can hear it in there for sure.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask questions in that group. I tried to reiterate that it doesn't matter, even if the question's already been asked, if somebody else has the answer to it, we're just here to help each other out. That's really what it's all about. We've got folks that are, they've been ham radios for years and years and years. You got some people that literally just got their ham radio license, and they're already on DMR and they haven't even been in ham radio for not even a month. Some people just got their calls. So we've got a mix of people.
And for folks with issues with homeowners associations or covenants, and you can't put up a really big HF antenna, this is a way to work people around the world without having to invest in a lot of HF equipment. I think, as you said, I mean, a little bit of investment up front, maybe with your equipment, but nothing compared to the cost of an HF setup.
Absolutely. You can get, if you were to get a let's say a UV 380 TYT radio, we'll call it $125. I'm just guessing. So, I mean, it's probably more, probably less. Just bear with me. And then let's say that little hotspot that's on the screen on the bottom left-hand corner, total, you're looking at about $200 total investment, and that'll get you on the air. But you can use that if you have D-Star equipment, you can use that with your existing equipment also. Or if you have Yaesu Fusion, you can use it with that too. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy another handheld just because you want to do this. Having a hotspot with whatever mode that you already use, I think there's a huge benefit to that.
Okay, if there are no other questions, again, thanks, Eric. Really appreciate you taking some time out to come and talk to us this evening. Again, I would ask folks to go and check that Facebook page out. If there's any interest in a follow up for something deeper, contact the board, and we will get in touch with Eric to see if we can impose on him one more time.
Yeah, it's no problem. I'm on QRZ. My email's good on there. You can feel free to email me. I try to be as responsive as I can. It goes right to my phone. I just answer it. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to try and spread the word a little bit about DMR. I'm just trying to let people know that there's ham radio is like a toolbox. So you got all kinds of different ways to communicate. There's not any one mode that we should be using. We should be using everything. We all have the technology, so we should use everything that we have available to us at some point in your ham radio interest, just to try it out. I know nothing about slow scan TV, and I learned a lot about slow scan TV just by listening to some of these DMR nets. And there's some nets that are very active talking about that and how to use FLDG and other modes too. So.
Well, thank you again. I'll put the plug out there for anybody else who has expertise in a certain area and they want to do a presentation. Also, if you don't have expertise in an area but you would like to see a presentation on that, please push that up to one of us on the board, and we will work into the community and see if we can find someone who's willing to do that. I would say too, don't be shy about going out on a limb, and you can always make one of these interactive. You can kind of go into a presentation and then turn it into a sort of a group learning activity as well. So again, thanks. I'm momentarily gonna stop the Facebook Live feed. Anybody who would like to stay on the Zoom meeting to talk or ask questions is welcome to do that. But I will stop Facebook here momentarily and I will stop the recording.